I wanted to get better on, public speaking and, how to, while talking or, speaking in forums, how to organize my thoughts. And I was looking for, some help in that. While Googling, I found that Queen City, Toastmaster Club. That's how I learned about this group.
Well, thanks for coming. And we're the oldest Toastmasters in Charlotte. So we've been around for a while.
Yeah.
And Travis, hello. Did you say you wanted to sing a song to us or something? Or
Hey, how you doing? No, I don't have a song for you guys. I just, wanted to say hey.
All right. Well, welcome. All right, and let's go ahead. We have 3 speakers tonight, so we're gonna have a busy night, and I just want to turn the meeting over to our immediate past president, Vanessa Whaler. Vanessa.
Thanks so much, David. Well, welcome everyone. So great to see so many guests joining us tonight. Well, it was hard for me at first to choose a theme because there have been a lot of things I've been thinking about recently. And February, of course, is a month with a lot going on. It's Black History Month, as we all know. It's the month that has Valentine's Day, which some of us like, some of us are a little more cynical about. But in any case, I was thinking one thing that's been inspiring me lately that I thought would be a good theme for us, because we all are familiar with words, we're familiar with phrasing. One of the themes that I've really enjoyed thinking about has been the power of literature and specifically poetry. I was really inspired by the poet Amanda Gorman, who spoke at the presidential inauguration. And it reminded me of how much I enjoyed poetry when I was in school. And I just completely forgot about it once I started working. I just sort of forgot that I could actually read poems and enjoy them. Got busy with other things, but one thing that's coming to mind is I should really look into poets a little bit more and do a little more research on poetry. It's something I've always enjoyed. And seeing as it is Black History Month, I did a bit of research and came across the poems of Maya Angelou, who's a very well-known, well-regarded poet, and just thought, wow, this is so cool. I've got to do more of this interesting hobby type research. So I guess for tonight's theme, it's the power of literature, the power of poetry to inspire. And one thing I thought I'd get us started with is a question just for the whole group. And you are welcome to volunteer if you have ideas. Does anyone have a favorite author or poet, and what makes them really special to you? Any members or guests are welcome to share ideas. Ollie, go for it.
Yes, my favorite author is Grant Cardone. He wrote the 10X Rule, one of the greatest books of all time. Be obsessed to be average, gives people permission to be crazy. And a book that I've read 4 times in a row. I'm currently reading right now. Sell or Be Sold. He's wrote other books. They're quite amazing. I think the most important message in all his books is like, listen, this is gonna make you feel jacked up for the moment. This is gonna make you feel energized, make you feel like you can attack the world. But if you just sit on this information and don't do anything with it, you're wasting your time. So that's the most important thing he says in all these books. They all have somewhat of the same message, but massive action. Don't sit on information and just pay on information overload. Take massive action.
Awesome. That's a really interesting book to really get you motivated. And sometimes a lot of us tend to go for more fluffy, lighthearted things that are maybe not as thought-provoking. So that's good that you're actually a person who can enjoy that stuff. I'm trying to be more like that and really get into more nonfiction and things like that that are more substantive. So that sounds very worthwhile, very worth reading. Are there any other members or guests who have a particular favorite author or poet? Yes, Crystal.
So I'm not bashful, by the way, so you're probably going to hear from me a lot. I love Robert Moss. There's a poem called The Man with the Corpse on His Back, and I read that all the time. It is such a true story that I can relate to greatly. Also, Rumi is a favorite of mine. There's a poem by Rumi called Whoever Brought Me Here Will Have to Take Me Home. And that's another favorite poem of mine. And then the authors that I read range from Simon Sinek, who is my boyfriend, and he doesn't really know it yet though. But Simon Sinek, Darren Hardy, And I read a lot of, well, not a lot of Brene Brown, but I do read a lot of Simon Sinek and Mike Michalowicz. So it's a lot of personal and professional development things that I read. So
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing, Crystal. It sounds like very, very enriching reading list. Kind of more, kind of like Ali was saying, something that's really helping you progress, and that's awesome.
Mhm.
It's a great list. I was jotting down a few of the names you shared, so I'll have to Google some of those authors. Wonderful. Anyone else? All right. Well, thanks so much for sharing those ideas, everyone. And since we have 3 speeches, I'll move it right along and introduce a very important Toastmaster who will be helping us keep track of our filler words and just nudge us in the right direction when it comes to using correct grammar. And that is going to be our grammarian. So I'm pleased to welcome Toastmaster Mina as our grammarian. I'll turn it over to you, Mina.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. My name is Mina, and I'll be your grammarian for this evening. As a grammarian, my role is to pay close attention to all speakers, listening carefully to their language usage, and I take note of any improper language as well as any outstanding words. I'll also listen for filler words, including and overused words, including and, well, so, you mean. The other thing, as a grammarian, it's my duty to introduce the word of the day. For today's meeting, the word of today that I choose is tumultuous. Who knows what does it mean? Tumultuous, yes, it means busy, disorderly, messy. For example, if we wanted to use it in a sentence, we can say women are great leadership, especially in tumultuous times. Or he received tumultuous welcome. So I encourage everyone to use this word in their speeches. And I'm going to count each people who is using it. And at the end, I report for my grammarian report using these filler words and the usage of the word of the day. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Mina. Excellent job. I think this is your first time serving as grammarian, is that correct?
Yes.
Well, you did a wonderful job. You seem very experienced. And I love your choice of words. So I guess bonus points to anyone who's able to use tumultuous in their speech or table topics speech. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks.
And next up, we have a Toastmaster who is going to help us keep track of time, because sometimes it's easy to keep talking and not realize how long you're talking for. And for that, I'll introduce our timer, Toastmaster Balut.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. Tonight, I'll serve as your timer, and I will time every prepared speech, table topic speech, and evaluation speeches. And we all know that our speech can get tumultuous at times, and we all want to be cognizant and aware of that, and timing is a big component of it. So for tonight's prepared speeches, at the 5-minute mark, I will turn my background to green, which means your speech qualifies for being voted on for best speaker for your category. For, again, prepared speeches, at 6-minute mark, I will turn my background to yellow. And at the 7-minute mark, I will turn it to red, which will signal you to wrap up signal you to the speakers that you have 30 seconds to wrap up your speech. For table topics, which are 1 to 2 minute speeches, I will turn on green at 1 minute mark, yellow at 1 minute and 30 seconds, and red at 2 minutes. For evaluations, it'll be green at 2 minutes, yellow at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and red at 3 minutes. At the end of each section, I will report back and let the audience know who qualified and who didn't. Thank you. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Balut. And I love your background. It's very easy to see. Awesome. All right. Well, tonight I'm excited that we have 3 speakers. Each one is really unique and bringing a wonderful new perspective. And first up, we have Elvis Lopez. And Elvis, I believe you are doing a speech called Do More with Less. Is that correct? Did I get
That is
right?
correct.
Wonderful. So I'm really excited about this because it sounds like a really interesting speech. So much of us feel like we're overscheduled and we want to try and fit in a lot of things. So I'm really excited to hear what you say about do more with less. I'll turn it over to you.
We've always heard that in order to succeed in life, we need to work hard. And in pursuing that purpose, we tend to believe and think that we need to work more. And so we go on and work longer, harder. And by doing so, we end up also, for the luckiest ones, we get a little bit more money, but also more stress, more anxiety, more insecurity, also less health, and sometimes also weaker or broken relationships. Now, what if I told you that the studies of the most successful people in the world show that we can be happier, we can be realized both personally and professionally and be more successful without having to work more hours and actually being more relaxed? Madam Toastmaster, my fellow Toastmasters, and our guest, good evening. Doing more with less is a fundamental principle that can be applied to anything, any discipline on our lives. And what is it anyways? Doing more with less. Do we need to slow down, be lazier, or stop thinking on growing personally or pursuing more things in our career? Not necessarily. Now, doing more with less is a principle that is fundamented in mathematical, scientific studies. Have you heard of the Pareto principle, the 80-20, or the principle of the less effort? Well, they all coincide on that you can achieve more outcomes by doing the small amount of effort. More of something achieved with doing less effort. And now, specifically, how do we get there? What are the most specific things that will allow us to do more with less? I'd like to focus on 3 specific rules, behavioral rules that we can apply in anything, everything that we do in our lives. Those 3 things are focus, delivery practice, and third is rest. To illustrate better those concepts of those rules, I'd like to take you into a journey on this story that happened with a study that was performed in the early 90s by 3 psychologists that went to the University of the Arts in West Berlin. They wanted to study the violinists. And specifically, they asked their professors to help them identify the best performance with the violin. Now, they wanted to have a point of comparison and also selected a group of students who were actually in the education department and starting to become teachers. They were also very good at the violin, but they were not as good as the top performers. Now, they called the first ones elite players and the second group the average players. The obvious guess was, well, the average players would just go on, goofy around, and spend the time enjoying their lives, while the elite players will be just focusing on doing the work and getting good at what they do. Well, the data actually showed something totally different. The psychologists started doing a series of in-depth interviews to each of the students and also gave them diaries so that they could mark down specifically where they spend their time, how they spend their time, both of work and leisure. And these are some of the results. Both the average players and the elite players spend an average the same amount of time working on music. Now, the difference was how they spend their time. The elite players spend 3 times more hours to doing delivery practice than the average player. And what is exactly delivery practice? Delivery practice is the uncomfortable, methodical work to stretch yourself. Those things that you're not good at, you practice until you get better at it. That's delivery practice. The second thing that I discovered was that the elite players were actually focused on doing their work in a specific time of the day, whereas the average players were just spraying the work throughout the day. They were always busy. They were trying to fill out their time with work, ending up more stress and doing less. The third thing was that the elite players were sleeping 1 more hour than the average players, and they were also more relaxed. So the 3 things there, they were more focused, delivery practice, and resting. You see, hard work is different than hard to do work. Hard work is delivery practice, is actually focusing, doing things, be done with it, and go and rest. Well, hard to do work is just draining. It's going around the entire day, being busy, is stress, feeling tired. Now, whether you are a student or you are well into your career, if your goal is to have a better life, to pursue a remarkable life, then busyness and exhaustion are your enemy. If you're always stressed and up late at work every day, well, you're doing something wrong. Do less, but do whatever you have to do with complete and hard focus. And when you're done with it, be done and get back to your rest of your day. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Alvis. What an excellent speech and such great points that I know I'm going to keep thinking about for the next few weeks, especially as I'm at work. And I definitely want to make sure that my work is productive and that I'm not just spinning my wheels. So I think that's great advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. And our next speaker will be Natalie Alberto. And Natalie, I believe you're doing a talk about effective body language. Is that part of your pathways?
Yes, it's level 2 presentation mastery pathway. So that's the second assignment. Yeah.
Got it. Wonderful. Well, this is really good. We can all learn more about gestures, body language. I've heard it's even more important than verbal communication. I don't know if that's right, but that's the statistic I've heard. So I'm definitely curious to hear more about this. And I will go ahead and turn the floor over to you.
Merci, Madame Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and distinguished guest. Bonjour, mon ami. Répétez après moi en français. Are there any French speakers in the house? Show of hands. So, répétez après moi en français is repeat after me in French. So I would like you to repeat after me. J'aime le livre.
J'aime le livre.
J'aime le livre.
J'aime le livre.
Very good. Before I tell you what that means, and some of you who speak Romance languages such as Spanish may have guessed, I want to show you something. What do you think of when I do this?
Something you love, something you enjoy, something you cheer.
Yes. And what are these?
These are your books.
Right. So in French, we just said j'aime le livre. With me showing you that gesture of hugging my books and rocking them, smiling, you were able to decipher what we just said. J'aime le livre. I have loved books ever since I was a little girl. I would go to the library with my mom and I would check out To Infinity Beyond, an enormous stack of books that I would devour through the weekend, change them again, and read. As an adult, I realized with each of my moves that my possessions, with the exception of fashion, are primarily books. I even have a small treasure chest for my future children of my treasured childhood books, keepsakes that are limited edition that they will one day inherit. Alors, por qué dire en français, j'aime le livre? That means, why say in French, I love books? Well, today we are on the streets of Paris. We're in my favorite neighborhood of Champs-de-Mars. The day began rather tumultuously. I was awakened with a loud thud on the door. I ran up the stairs of the flat that I was staying at, an Airbnb, and I unbolted the door, and I was greeted with a firefighter and his squad in the background, French people speaking excitedly, and fog, smoke in the hallway. Now, the firefighter spoke to me, and I don't really speak any French, un peu de français, a little bit, that I took in high school, and of course I speak Spanish, so there's some similarities, but not entirely the same. So I understood through context that there was a fire, he was wearing a fire suit, people were rather excited, but that the imminent danger had passed because otherwise we would not be standing in the hallway having a conversation about what had just transpired. So since I speak un peu français, just a little bit, the body language is what really gave me the cues. And research shows that 80% of communication is nonverbal. Despite language, even if we both speak English, we're giving away clues through our nonverbal communication. And then of course with alternative languages, French, Spanish, whatever other language you may speak, there are subtle nuances, but generally universal emotions such as anger, happiness, joy, sadness are the same. And that's why I understood in that moment that there was fear and that there had been a fire, but now everything was okay. After that rather rough start to the morning, I headed out onto the streets, grabbed a coffee and strolled through Rue Claire, making my way to a safe haven as I spotted a bookstore. As I said, j'aime le livre. And so I made my way to the bookstore and started perusing the racks. While outside, I was approached by the local shopkeeper, and he asked me if I was finding everything okay. Again, I didn't understand language, but because of context, his gestures, I intuited that he was asking if I was finding everything while I was shopping. Now, I smiled and in my best franglais, French English, said, I am just looking. Again, pointing. He immediately understood, and in his best franglais, he communicated back that there was just one book in English. Coincidentally, I had happened to pick it up. So I said, this? Pointing at it. And he said, yes. So he showed me then that there was a French version of the same book the French version was a little thicker, and the book was a book of poems on the different types of kisses by a local French writer. And so I said, I'll take both of them because I can learn French by comparing and contrasting. But I smiled and asked him, why are there more kisses in French? And he just gestured and said, follow me into the store. I followed him in, and as I perused the racks, I loaded my book cart with children's books, poetry, and literature. I had actually never read Le Petit Prince, so The Little Prince. I loaded it into my cart as well. And all the while we were speaking, but non-verbally, and connecting over our love of books. He looked at me rather bewildered, amused, and at the same time curious. Who is this American girl just picking up all of these books? And I said, j'aime le livre et j'aime le français. Je voudrais aprender. Aprender is Spanish for learn. So they're mixing language, but he understood what I meant. And he said, you would like to learn French. And I said, indeed. So after much negotiation, we headed to the counter and I convinced him, my nonverbals, to allow me to keep the books with their beautiful inscriptions, both in English and in French. And as I was checking out, he gave me one of the most beautiful maps of his favorite places in France that he had drawn for me. Those were local spots that a tourist wouldn't otherwise get to. And it reminded me of why I love travel and the power of the unspoken word, because it can transport us to places, people, and parts of ourselves we have never met before that are begging to be discovered. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natalie. That was such a great little story you told through your speech, and it makes me long for traveling again after such a long quarantine period. But I love that you obviously have a joy of meeting new people as you travel and having it be that really authentic experience. And I'm so pleased that the theme I chose happened to sort of align with the topic of your speech. And, you know, obviously we all always love walking into that cute little bookstore and finding just the right thing. So thank you so much. It was an excellent job, and you demonstrated excellent body language throughout as well. Thank you. And our final speech is going to be from Parisa. And Parisa, you were doing a speech focused on a research topic. Is that correct? For your pathways, researching and presenting?
Yes, that's
Awesome.
correct.
Wonderful. All right, I'll let you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Greeting fellow Toastmaster and guests. Tonight, I want to talk about a topic that I recently discovered. I did some research about it and I got very interested in it. And it's about nonviolent communication. And before I start talking about it, I would like to ask you to raise your hand if any of you know what is nonviolent communication. One, awesome. And have you ever practiced any nonviolent communication? Awesome. And for people who haven't done it, no worries, because this is my first time also learning about it, and I'm going to explain it a little bit to you, and through this way, I want to learn it myself as well. What is nonviolent communication? Nonviolent communication, or short form NVC, is a language of life that helps us to transform our old patterns of defensiveness and aggressiveness into compassion and empathy, and to improve our quality of our relationship, whether it's personal relationship or it is professional relationship. Most of the time in our life, we are at autopilot, and we react to situations and conflicts based on the habits and patterns that are in our subconsciousness that we have learned from childhood, living in different type of families and living in different societies. But NVC bring attention and respect in every moment of our life, and help us to focus on these patterns and transform these habits and patterns to a better way of communicating. And here, this question raises how to practice NVC. It's very simple. Nonviolent communication is a mixture of listening and speaking. First, listening to yourself, observing yourself whenever you're frustrated, you're in any situation that you have a lot of emotions, listening to yourself, observing everything and seeing what's happening in your body without evaluating or judging anything. And the same with people that you are communicating with them. People that are around you and they are frustrated, listening to them, trying to observing them and listening to their feelings. And second, speaking, starting to explaining and expressing your feelings, sharing your emotions, sharing your requests with honestly, and also ask your partners, your friends, your co-workers to tell you their request, their request and their frustration, if that makes sense. And for how to practice nonviolent communication, there's a simple form for practicing nonviolent communication. Imagine there's a day you're at work or you're at home and you get into conflict with your coworker or with one of your family members. You need to use this format, which is very simple. And it's like this. You say to your partner or to your friend, when you do A, I feel like B. Because I want to do C, I appreciate you do D. For example, I'm with my boyfriend. He's very messy. He leaves, whenever he drinks water, sparkling water or a beer, he leaves his bottles all around the house and I get frustrated. But I don't want to fight. I don't want to make the situation worse, but I want to learn and use NVC to control the situation. So I tell him, when you leave your empty bottles all around the house and don't pick them up, I feel like I'm neglected, I have to take care of it, and it makes me frustrated. And because I don't want to waste my time cleaning after these bottles that you have left in the house, and spend most of my time on learning, for example, or studying, I appreciate that you take care of your empty bottles in the house. This is one example. There is another example. Nonviolent communication suggests a list of words that we substitute with negative words that we might use in a fight. For example, when I'm furious or frustrated with my boyfriend, or I'm angry, I'm like, I'm furious with you. Or if I'm annoyed by him, I'll say, I'm displeased by you. There is a long list of nonviolent vocabularies, but these were just some of the examples. But in general, this is a method that helps us connecting with each other and living more in presence and with consciousness to make sure that we address those patterns and habits of habits that we used to do when conflicting with others. And I know that it will be hard to start doing it, but I know it takes practice that I can master on it. But from today, I'm going to start practicing nonviolent communication. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Parisa. Excellent speech. And those are all great communication skills that I think anyone can use. And sometimes you might think, well, I'm not a violent person, but you may not realize how much you might need to tone it down if you're having a tense conversation with someone. And I loved your ideas about alternate words to use. It's, again, going back to that theme of the importance of words. So thank you so much for sharing that speech with us. Well, at this point, I'll go ahead and call for a timers report just to see how our speakers fit within the guidelines. So I'll turn it over to you, Balut.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Elvis came in at 7 minutes and 40 seconds. Elvis, unfortunately, did not qualify tonight. Natalie came in at 6 minutes and 43 seconds. You'll qualify. Parisa, you came in at 6 minutes, 59 seconds. You qualify. Thank you. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thanks so much, Balut. So in a few moments, our ballot counter will go ahead and launch a poll so you can vote for your favorite speaker. And at this point in the meeting, we have a really exciting opportunity for impromptu speaking, and that is our table topics segment. So for that, I will turn it over to our table topics master, who is also our Sergeant at Arms, Toastmaster Julian.
All right. Thank you, Toastmaster. I'm Julian, and I will be your table topics master for the evening. So table topics is a really good way to get into public speaking. It was when I first started coming to the meetings. It's sort of an easy icebreaker just to speak a little bit. It's a 1 to 2 minute answer to an open-ended question, and they're pretty fun usually, and just a general question with a topic. So I will ask members and guests, and we would love for guests to participate if they want, but they don't have to. So feel free to say no if you don't want to. And so let's see. The topic for tonight is jobs and careers. I am kind of in the beginning of my career, and I'm still trying to figure out where I want to be long-term in my career. So I thought it'd be fun to just ask some questions about jobs and stuff like that. So do we have any volunteers for the first question?
I'll volunteer. This is Emily.
Okay. All right, first question. Are you currently working? And if so, do you like or dislike your job? And why? And if you're not currently working, then I'll ask you a different question.
That question is fine. I'm currently working. Am I currently working? And would you repeat the question?
Yeah, so it's, are you currently working, and do you like or dislike your job, and why?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm currently working, and I love what I do. It's a very creative process, and I love what I do. And the reason why is because at the age of 7, I found my purpose. At 7 years old, I found out that I love to style hair. So I got into the business around about 17 and have been doing it for the past 40 years. But I discovered that although I still enjoy and love it, and it is amazing to me, and it has been very fulfilling, that it is about time that I switch and shift. I heard someone say earlier, who I believe is a guest as well, that she's shifting and pivoting. And instead of being a teacher in a training position, she wants to be a speaker. So I share that value as well. And that's why I'm here at Toastmasters and visiting with you today, and amazed at what I've seen so far. But yes, I love what I do. Always have, always will. And all I'm doing is pivoting and transforming and creating a different me by speaking, because I've done that for over 40 years behind the chair. So now it's time to come from behind the chair and up on the virtual stage. Thank you very much.
Awesome answer. All right, so we have another question. Do we have any volunteers? Travis? All right, so if you could do any job, what would it be and why?
if I could do any job, what would it be and why? Well, I would pick a fun job of like a job that I wanted to do since I was a kid, and that would be a NBA player. I think that's a great job. You make great money. You're in the entertainment business. You're allowed to travel, and you're allowed to play a sport that you've been playing since you were a very young kid. You get to meet a number of people from different professions. You get to interact with a number of different people as well. So that would be my job if I had to choose. All right, thank you.
Awesome. Good answer. Yeah, I think a lot of people probably wanted to be pro athletes as kids. I definitely thought about that when I was a kid. So, all right, next question. Do we have any other volunteers?
Yeah, I can go ahead.
Okay. All right. So the question is, where would you like to be in your career in 10 years, and how do you plan to get there?
Yeah, I mean, I see myself, getting retired in 10 years from now. Right now I'm 45 years old, and 10 years from now, like 55, I would see myself retired, having, my kid, already going to, she'll be starting college, and they would be done in with their study by next 10 years. Why do I want to retire? Because the current job that I'm in, I have been working in the job for 20 years, and it's though I like it, but it's pretty, stressful, and I can't see myself, with the same stress and, same level of, for another, more than 10 years. So that's the reason, I want to shift to 10 years.
Great answer. I wish I could retire in 10 years, but I think it's going to take me a little bit longer. So, all right. So do we have time for one more?
Probably, yeah, I think we have time for one more.
Okay. Any volunteers?
I'll go.
Okay. All right. Last question. If you could go back to school and study something different, what would it be and why?
I would go back to school for interior design because it is such a creative outlet. It was actually a major of mine for a very short time at Central Piedmont many, many decades ago. It has the ability to transform someone's health and atmosphere and environment and influence their behavior and shift things in a very profound way. And I believe that it would be a very creative outlet. And although what I do now is creative, it's not creative in that same demonstrative way. So that is what I would go back to school for, would be interior design.
Okay, very nice. Can we get a timer's report?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Emily came in at 1 minute and 22 seconds. She qualifies. Travis came in at 54 seconds. Unfortunately, he doesn't qualify. Avinash, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, came in at 1 minute, 3 seconds. He qualifies. Crystal came in at 35 seconds. Unfortunately, she also does not qualify tonight. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master. I think, David, did you want to say something?
We do give the guests the slack. So if the guests are underneath the 1 minute, we tend to let them go.
Oh, okay. You qualify then. So Travis and Crystal, you also qualify, and everybody's up for the vote.
All right. Great job, everyone. Now you can vote on your favorite table topics. And now I will turn it over to our Toastmaster again.
Thank you so much, Julian. Excellent table topics questions. I think all of us have thought a lot about our careers and our education. It's something almost anyone can talk about. So it's always good when you know generally what the topic's going to be. You can just jump right in. Excellent job. At this point, we're going to hear some evaluations of our speakers, because one of the things we do here at Toastmasters is we want to grow, we want to progress and get feedback. So to kick off our evaluation segment, I will turn it over to our general evaluator, who is Ali Tobin. I'll turn it over to you, Ali.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Tonight, I'm your general evaluator. I will be evaluating the meeting as a whole, and then also evaluating the evaluators, offering a timer's report and requesting that. First, I want to introduce the first evaluator of the night. He'll be evaluating Natalie's speech. His name is David Jones.
All right. Thank you, Ali. Actually, I will be evaluating Elvis's speech. And Elvis, as always, you've done a great job. Elvis is a long-standing member and he always performs very well. First, you did something that I always like to see, and all three speakers did it tonight. You always stand up, because eventually we're going to be back in the corporate conference room and we all going to have to stand up to give a speech or be in front of people. So I think standing up is just something we need to do, and especially during COVID, we're all sitting on our butts pretty much all day working from home. So it's just good to stand up. That's why I stand up during this whole meeting. So that was a good start. And by standing up, last week I did non-verbal communications, and that's where your hands come into play, and you had a lot of hand action, and I think that was really great. And if you were sitting down, it probably wouldn't have been enough the same. You wouldn't have had the same energy, and your speech required a lot of hand movements based on what you're talking about. So that was all very good. Then you started off by talking about we, which draws the audience in, because you're not talking about something over here about yourself. You're talking about we, the audience. And you also drew us in by saying, what if I told you, which is an open-ended question where you're saying, or like, what are you going to tell us? So you automatically drew the audience in. And then some of you might have noticed a difference between Elvis and the other two speakers. Elvis started his speech, and then after he kind of gave us a synopsis of it, then he said, greeting fellow Toastmasters and guests. And usually more experienced speakers do it that way. I don't do it that way yet. I always do it before I start the speech, but that is an acceptable way of doing it. And usually you do that in contests too, just to kind of let people know that you're an experienced speaker, as Elvis is. And I also liked how you slowed down your pace when you were talking about slowing down. You just automatically slowed your pace. And then when you talked about doing more, you sped up more. So the tone variety and the speed of your speech was really good. And you've always done, ever since I've met you, you've always slowed down, you've always paused instead of using filler words. I didn't pick up on any filler words, because you always just think about your next word, where most of us just say so, which I'm sure I've done quite a few times. You laid out 3 different things that you wanted to talk about: focus, delivery, and rest. And then you went in and talked about each one of those items. So you checked them off. And there's another part where you're talking about practicing and you're hitting your hand. And that kind of gave us different senses to what you're talking about. It got our attention back, made us pay attention to what you're saying. And then, like I said, it was just very good verbal when you were trying to emphasize that. The other thing that at first kind of concerned me, but then I realized, was the angle of your camera. You were looking down at everybody, which when we're in a meeting, that's how it is. We're standing up on stage looking down at people. So I think that's perfectly acceptable to do it the way you did it. Now, the only area for improvement is maybe before the meeting to test your equipment. It was a little, you had some feedback and it was a little off, it was a little gurgly at times. And I would say just check that before the meeting. But other than that, I think you had an excellent speech. Thank you. And back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
David, I think that was a wonderful evaluation. I have no clue who I thought you were evaluating now. I clearly have it written down. David evaluates Elvis. All right, so now I'm going to move it on to Eric. He evaluates Natalie. Okay, that's the correct way.
Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and especially Natalie. Natalie, I thought your speech was wonderful. I can really tell that you were really excited for this today. It was so upbeat. You had everybody engaged with your speech, and I thought that was wonderful. And I like how you had all of us try to speak in a French, with the French language. And I'll tell you, I have never took any foreign language class during my middle school and high school years. I was exempt, so I may have to get like a Rosetta Stone or something to practice on some accents because I can't do it to save my life. And I got, my mom's cousin has a condo in Paris. So I may have to contact my mom's cousin and maybe she can teach me how to do a French accent. But all in all, it was fun to listen to, hearing so much of that. Like I said, I like how you had the audience participation. You started having people speak the language and also what it means. That I liked. Also, you had good use of props. I like the book. You were like hugging the book. You were like swaying like this. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. You excelled at with so much enthusiasm. You were standing up. You were expressing yourself. You made us listen. You had us engaged. You did so much of that. You said it so positively too, because that's what I like in speeches, is spreading the positive, not the negative. So you spread more positivity today, and that's why I enjoyed. The stories were so much fun to listen to. And I like to see you use this speech in a speech contest, because I think that will bring some more attention to that. And like I say, your body gestures were fantastic. Your eye contact was fantastic. Everything was spot on. What you may want to work on too is take a brief pause for about 3 seconds. Make the audience process the information that you're giving out. And I think that would be a good idea. But other than that, that was a fun and enjoyable speech. I look forward to hearing much more of your speeches. So thank you very much for letting me be your evaluator tonight. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you so much for your evaluation on Natalie, Eric. That was a wonderful evaluation. And then I want to introduce our third evaluator. This is Angelica. She's going to be evaluating Parissa.
Thank you, Ali. Parissa, I'm sorry. Thank you for your speech. It was very good. It was very informative. I learned something tonight, which is always what I'm looking for. Learn something from somebody. So this was great. You did a great introduction. I think that the fact that you asked the question, you were asking us what is a non-violent communication, and then you told us that you didn't know what it was either. It kind of engaged us and make us feel part of this process of research that you did, and definitely I could see that you did some research about your speech and about the subject, and you really understood and explained very well the point that you were trying to come across. I also thought it was very fun to involve a little bit of yourself in there and tell us the story about your boyfriend and how you are going to approach the situation that with the battles around the house. So that was a great example, and it helped us to kind of apply that to ourselves. You got a good tone. It was appropriate. You were engaged. You engaged us. As I said, you asked a question and you were looking at us. Your gestures were great and enhanced your speech. You also have a very structural speech. It wasn't tumultuous at all. You have an introduction with the question that I said before. Asking us what is a non-violent communication. Then you develop the subject, you give us a background, you talk about how to practice listening and speaking, observing, and sharing our feelings. So I think that that was great. And then finally, you give us a conclusion of how we can connect with each other if we really learn to manage this non-violent communication. So I think that that was great. I think that things that you probably could improve is I saw that you were using probably another screen to support your speech. And I think that that broke a little bit, interrupt a little bit the flow of your speech. So it makes it a little bit, sometimes it broke the flow when we were following you, what you were saying. I will probably suggest maybe use cards to remember all this. I don't know, or maybe I would think that maybe a little paper cards will help if you need to keep all the information. But otherwise, I think that it was great. You, as I said, great introduction. You give us something to learn from your speech, and just kind of practice a little bit on what I said, the support for your speech. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your wonderful evaluation, Angelica. I just want to say this role is teaching me one thing: how to do this. David thinks it's funny. May I please get a times report? Baloo thinks it's funny too. May I get a times report, Baloo?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. David came in at 3 minutes and 13 seconds. Eric came in at 2 minutes and 42 seconds. Angelica came in at 3 minutes and 15 seconds. So they all qualify. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Balut. And now I would like to introduce our grammarian, Mina, for today.
Yes. Thank you, Master Toastmaster. The only person that used the word of the day is Natalie. So she used the word tumultuous. So, and for the filler words, Elvis, everything was fine. I didn't find anything. For the Parista, you use lots of and in your words and connecting the all the sentences with and there were just several but no others. And for the Angelica, there were lots of that we need to work on it. For the Avinash, you had lots of and you say several times. The others, Travis, several and that's it. Back to you, Master Toastmaster.
Thank you. And now I'll go ahead with my general evaluation for tonight, guys. First, I'd like to say one thing. Every time Elvis gives a speech, I think about him being like a college professor. I'm like, this guy has to be a professor at like UNC Charlotte or something. Because I don't know why he has like the professor look like to give you some wisdom and teach you something you don't know about. All right, but I want to first start at the beginning. I like how we introduced the guests. We gave them opportunity to speak, just network in the beginning. I do like how Julian had a great introduction also, and we started on time. I think Vanessa, I think that subject was a great subject because I really do like subjects that make people think, that when they leave here, they're like, let me think about that real quick, a little reflection when they look at themselves in the mirror. And everybody introduced their roles. And I think my favorite part of the night was guest participation. This is like the most guest participation I've seen. And this is really good because this is really what we want. We want guest participation. because we want guests to eventually say, hey, I maybe want to be a member one day. Travis, I think you did a great job. And when you said you wanted to be in the NBA, Travis, every time I look at you, I'm like, yo, this guy has to be like 6'6". I don't know, man. You got long arms and you could just go like this and just dunk on somebody. I think everybody did a wonderful job in their roles. And I think all the speakers did an amazing job. And this role taught me something, guys, how to sit back and just do this. And now I'm going to bring it back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Ali, for an excellent general evaluation. At this point, we're about ready to wrap up, but I think the last thing is to call for the winners of our speech, table topics, and evaluation contests. And I think David is our ballot counter and should have the results. So I guess, David, I can turn it over to you if you want to go ahead and announce our winners.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Our winners for tonight, the best evaluator was Eric. Our best table topics goes to a guest, Emily. So congratulations, Emily. And the favorites, did I say best? We don't have best, we have favorite, because we're all the best. Our favorite speaker of the night was Natalie. Congratulations, Natalie. Did you have anything you wanted to close with, Vanessa, before I move on to mine?
Well, you know, David, I was actually realizing on the schedule, my final act, I believe, is to ask for future role signups. And I know sometimes the presiding officer has done that. I don't know if you want me to do that, but I'm happy to. It looks like we have some openings for next week. So we can see, I know we are looking for, let's see here. So next week, February 9th, we are looking for
well, let's stay on the Toasties because I have a couple announcements and.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah,
we can save that for later too. I just realized I neglected that last time I was Toastmaster, so wanted to throw that out there. But I think, I guess in conclusion, thank you so much, everyone, especially our guests who all did an amazing job participating. And it's always really exciting because usually, like when I was starting out as a guest at Toastmasters, I wasn't really comfortable jumping into table topics, but you all are really good. Like you just seem like you've had lots of experience. So yeah, thanks again. I can't just sort of echoing what Ali, our general evaluator, shared. But with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back to our presiding officer, David Jones.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Yeah, and the same with me. I was telling Julian, just call on people because the guests never ever raise their hands because they're all too scared. But I was so happy to see everybody's like, yeah, let us talk. So that was a wonderful night to see the guests stand up and speak. I first wanted to congratulate Elvis and Balut. Last week they represented Queen City. They did a presentation for Indian Trail Rotary. It was our first time, evidently Toastmasters and Rotary has a relationship, but it started last year during COVID, so it didn't really get any traction. So Elvis and Balut did a presentation to them, and then they did table topics with a couple of members, and the president of the Rotary, Andy Peters, emailed me and said that they both did a great job, and I think they're looking for them to do another one. So thank you to Elvis and Balut for representing Queen City. And let me see, before I move on to my part, I just want to see if Natalie, did you have anything you wanted to announce that you might be trying on social media?
Well, I want to encourage everyone to follow us on social media. So whether you're on Facebook or Instagram, follow us at Queen City Toastmasters. And then we're going to be trying a new thing, which I would encourage you to participate on. We're going to share the word of the week on Wednesday. So it'll be Wednesday word of the week. So whoever was the grammarian, tomorrow's word will be tumultuous. I'm going to try to lay it out in a nice design tonight. And if you are on Instagram or Facebook and want to engage, we encourage you to use the word or even share it with your community. I wrote down the sentence that Mina shared, so I'll include it with women are great leaders in tumultuous times as a reference. So if you even want to just click and reshare it to your Instagram story, that would be greatly appreciated because we want more people to come and work on their goals and raise their standards this year.
Thank you. And Natalie is our VP of Public Relations, and she's the one that does all the posts on social media. And I just wanted to get some feedback from our guest. Avinash, what do you think of the meeting? Any thoughts or comments?
This is great. I'm so happy that I could join it, and it's a great learning experience, and I am taking a resolve that I'll make sure from this week onwards, every week I come to this meeting and be part of it. I really liked it, but I'm just trying to understand the format of it, and that how people graduate from guest to other levels like Toastmasters, and then how do you assign different roles to people, because it's a first time for me, so I need to understand all that. But I'm sure over the period I'll learn how it whole thing progresses. But so happy to be part of it. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us. And everyone who spoke tonight is a role that you sign up for, just to kind of get going. You can either do the speech or the various roles, except for the president's role. But other than that, you can do any of the roles. So, and that's kind of how we get going. I also came in a couple of minutes late, but Nicole is kind of a member of Queen City. She's a member of Atrium. We haven't met her yet. She's an Atrium member, and Atrium and Queen City are together. I just wanted to have you introduce yourself and say hello.
Sure. Hi, my name is Nicole Brandon. I'm very new to Toastmasters, and I have thoroughly enjoyed the sessions that I've been able to join. I'm working on my pathway, so hopefully you will hear from me soon. But I just wanted to thank everyone for their time, and I take notes and mental notes every time I join. So I'm just glad to be here and looking forward to learning from each of you.
All right, great. Thanks for joining us. Crystal, I don't even have to say what you need to say, because you're going to say what you want to say.
Thank you so much. There is an See, you all have made me very aware of my ums and so's this evening. There it is again. I am very impressed at how supportive everyone is of each other. You don't generally hear that, and it's very supportive, very uplifting, very positive. It's very encouraging to me as well. I second Avinash's statement about understanding everyone's roles and what they do. It's fascinating, the juxtaposition of everyone and what roles they're playing to help everyone come to a better place of communication and sharing their thoughts and ideas in a positive way. So beautiful evening. Thank you so much for having me again. And hopefully I'll see you all again soon. Thank you very much.
And Emily, our Toastmaster table topics of the night. Any feedback from you?
You all are so kind, and I thank you very much. Yes, this was amazing. I'm scrolling back and forth on the screen, looking at the diversity and listening to the different dialects, and it's just beautiful. It's like a symphony tonight. So I want to say thank you so much for having all of us to join you tonight, and having the information so available for us to do so, because not all Toastmasters websites, the Zoom or information is available to tap and go right to the meeting. So I want to say thank you for such a wonderful meeting. Great job.
Great. Thank you, Emily. And that's one of the things I'm really proud of. At Queen City, we do have a very diverse group. We have 2 members from Iran. We have 1 from Turkey. We have Dominican Republic, Colombia, and of course, Natalie and I are from Miami. That's my little joke.
Awesome.
Itself. And so I really enjoy our group. But Travis, thanks for joining us again. And yeah, I would have to agree with Ali. You look very tall. How tall are you?
I'm not super tall. I'm just 6'4".
Super tall to me.
6'4", like an average person is 6'4". Come on, Travis.
And then we have a guest who is also an evaluator tonight, Eric. He's the president of AM Lockport, which is something I'm also a member. I'm a dual member of AM Lockport. They meet Thursdays at 7 in the morning. And Eric is one of the few people, because we touched on tonight, that I know that actually does poetry on Facebook, and he has a YouTube channel where he does poetry. Anything you want to say, Eric?
Oh, you hit that right on the nose, David. But yes, I do poetry readings. It's a great way to, block the negativity out on what's going on during this pandemic. So I thought it would be a nice idea to, do some poetry readings through Facebook, through Instagram, and through YouTube. So I encourage everybody to do some more poetry reading because I think it's fantastic. And this Saturday, if anybody's interested, this Saturday morning at 9 a.m. is the Toastmasters District 65 Area 11 and 14 contest. David, I'll send you the link. You can email that to everybody. But I'm competing in the international contest. If anybody wants to hop on and watch the participants compete, that'll be great. I think it's going to be a wonderful time. So thank you, David, for calling on me, and great to see everybody. I'm glad to be out of quarantine now. I've been in quarantine now for the past few days due to me being exposed to probably someone at work. So it's been fun, been binge watching TV a lot. So
Thank you much. And before we go to the post-host season, close it out, did any other officers have any thing you wanted to say or anything I forgot? No. No. Oh, Ollie.
Oh, yes. Yes, guys. We like this guest participation, and we hope to one day turn guests into members. And if you ever have the thought that, hey, I would like to become a member one day, feel free to put your information down, email address, phone number, and I can message you and get right to you on that. And if you're ever thinking like, this will change my life, it really will. Improve you a lot as an individual. And I hope I'm right when I get ready to say this, because I think I'm right. It is $22.50 to join Toastmasters International. And is it still $22 to join the club for the month of February, like January?
No, we just switched over to February, so it's going to be a little different. If you have questions about the fee, feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my email address in the chat, and I'll be happy to explain it to you all in more detail.
Yeah, questions about the fee, we'll get those answers for you.
And all right, thank you. And the meeting went a little long. We try to get it over at 7:30, but when we have 3 speakers, it's a little bit more jam-packed. So I'll call the meeting to a close right now, and hopefully we'll see you all again. And if the members can stay on, I'm going to have Vanessa beat you up for some roles next week. So, all right. So thanks again for everybody for coming.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.